I need to know that in 2 weeks, when I tell you the home hasn't sold for this price, that you're going to be willing to do that. And I need to know that you understand you are risking making the home look less desirable as a result of overpricing it. In most industries, overpricing an item does not preclude getting a sale. You can overprice a car and you will get a low offer. You can overprice jewelry, you'll get an offer. With real estate specifically, because it's the largest financial transaction of someone's life, they are driven emotionally. They're driven by fear. They do not approach, the average home buyer does not approach the real estate purchase with the idea of writing low offers. Investors do, but that's not the buyer case. The buyer here is someone that's going to pay full price. And so you need to understand the risks, and we need to have a plan if, as we explore this new adventure of putting prices that have never happened before on the market, that we have a clear price reduction strategy as a part of the listing agreement. I have found that this session with you guys, it functions in a way that is more valuable to you if you take a second and take some personal inventory to where you're able to say, this is an area of growth. This is an area that I am seeing a measure of success in. Here's an example of that, maybe a good call. I want to celebrate that with you, right? So and it's actually important because each time you have a win, so let's say you use one of the scripts I told you to use and it works and you're excited. Well, it's going to open up some new problems because then you're going to get in their home and they're going to have all kinds of new challenges, right? Like if you're playing a video game, you get past level 5 boss and now you got to go to level 6 boss. That's called life. So I want to unpack that with you and help you to be prepared for what's coming when you have those successful moments. And then also your growth areas. If you do not have any area in your business that you do not see an opportunity for growth, that you are actively failing in, I would just tell you that you're not trying hard enough. And that would be a whole talk track. So if you're one of the people like, hey, Barry, I'm trying to think of what to ask you or what areas of growth, that's a big discussion I want to have with you. Self-awareness is actually not very common in our culture. We're so inundated with videos and social media and our friends and family and clients and the pressures of life that we don't actually stop to think, what do I need? What do I want? Where am I going? Where do I need my business to grow? And then because we're not paying attention, we become a victim to circumstances. Life doesn't just happen for us. We see other people enjoy their success. We see other people change their lives. And we wonder that maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe it's my fault. When actually what's happening is you're not paying attention. You're watching other people succeed around you, and you're not taking personal inventory enough to where you're leveling up and you're growing. All right, so let me pause for a second. And anything that I said, if I rang a bell, I want you to chat me or raise your hand. I do have a question here, so we'll kick it off here. Thank you so much for the question. Lisa said, how do you handle a client that repeatedly says, we want to get $650 for our home, but the comps only support $620 for our price, listing this home as soon as we find them something to buy? So this is about alignment. Your client wants a specific amount. And if you just tell them the comps don't support that, and that's all you say, what happens is you become kind of like, you have like this negative energy towards them, and they see you as the blocker to what they think is their success story. It's really important that when you're having pricing discussions with the homeowner, that you take some time to align your interest with theirs. The ways that I've found that work best with most sellers. Some sellers, they're just very unreasonable people, okay? So I'm going to tell you what I would do in that situation, and I'm also going to tell you that sometimes people are just going to still do what they want, and they're going to be irrational, and it doesn't matter how good you are, they're just going to choose to live that way, okay? So all that being said, alignment is the name of the game. That is what you want to be focused on. Some things that I would say to somebody when they wanted to overprice their home is I would push it out ridiculously high. Like, if we're picking numbers, we could do 800 or 900,000. Nobody's ever sold their home for more than 620,000 in your neighborhood. But, if you want to shoot it really high, we could just pick a really high number and see what happens. Now, if we do that, the home's not going to sell probably. But if it did sell for 8 or 900,000, that's actually not even high enough. Let's do a million. If it did sell for a million, I want it to be ridiculous, right? I don't want it to be like, what do you mean? You think I could get 750 for the house? I want it to be a ridiculous number. Let's say we picked a million. If I sold your house for $1 million, I want you to know I would be really happy for you because you get a lot more money. And you know what I would do? I would knock on all your neighbors' doors and told them that I rose their property values and that they should thank me by hiring me to do the same for them. I would be your neighbor's hero. Everyone would love me. You would make a ton of money. I would make a ton of money. I would get a bunch of new clients and we would both be winning. Now, when I look at a mile radius around your neighborhood and I look at homes that are a million, they are twice as large and they have views of the water. Do you think someone would pay $1 million for your house that's half the size and has a house behind it? It does not have a view. Do you think they would pay $1 million for yours if they could pay $1 million for a house twice the size in a gated community with a view of the water? This is when you find out if they're rational. Okay, it's that moment because they respond and say to you, "Oh, well, anything can happen, right?" You can try them back down to earth, but at that point, and I'm going to tell you what to do if the person's irrational. But I would say the majority of people in that moment that are being honest, intellectually honest with themselves, when they see $1 million home that is has a water view and is twice as large, they're going to say, okay, yeah, I got it. I'm not going to sell the home for $1 million, but Lisa, I don't want to sell it for $1 million. I want to sell it for 650. And that's when you go back into the neighborhood and you look at the comparables. Now, what I like to do is I like to show them just examples of homes that were 650, if I can find it. And it doesn't have to necessarily be just in that one neighborhood. I know appraisers will look at the subject property, your listing, and they'll stay as close as possible to the home. That's appraisal theory. That's what they do. Consumers, however, they are looking at a specific price point. And if you can just do like a mile radius or a half a mile, depending on the area, if it's like an urban area, maybe it's a half a mile. If it's a rural area, maybe you do 2 to 3 miles. What you're trying to find is what are people willing to pay or what are people getting at the 650 price mark versus the 620? Is it different? And the hope would be that the data is really, really clear. The 650 homes are on the east side of the neighborhood, and here's why they're paying more. And you can find active comparables, and you've printed them out, and you can say, here's an active listing for 650. It's got an extra bedroom, it has a swimming pool, and it has an extra a 3-car garage instead of a 2. Mr. Smith, if we put your home for sale, which one do you think you would buy for 650? Would you buy the one with the pool, the extra bedroom, and the extra car garage for 650? Or would you buy yours, right? So what I'm doing is I'm attempting to teach them to look at their decision through the lens of a buyer. Because if I can impact them in those 2 ways, one, alignment. If they want to overprice their home, I'm going to win. It's so important that they understand that I'm aligned with them wanting to overprice their home and how I benefit, how my business would benefit. I would send postcards to the whole neighborhood that I literally rose the property values. I would be the biggest hero. So once they know I'm aligned with them and it's not me versus them, that's when I pivot to start teaching them, let's change our perspective to look at the buyers now. Would a buyer pay 650 when they can get this other house on 123 Smith Street for 650? This is your competition in your neighborhood. This is your competition in your area. Here's the differences. Do you like their kitchen or yours better? Theirs, got it. Do you like their yard or your yard better? You like theirs because it has a view of the woods. Got it. Do you like their pool better or the fact that you don't have a pool? Got it. You like the fact that they have a pool. So what you're seeing is, as we think about this logically, you're seeing there are specific reasons when we look at 123 Smith Street versus your house. As I'm taking you through and looking at it like a buyer, this means you've got to print out the houses pictures. Like you really have to take them there intellectually and look at their decision through the lens of a buyer. If you get to the end of that and they're like, I hear you, I understand, I see why someone would pick the other home, but can we just put it on the market for 650 and we can reduce the price later, right? Because some people are going to do that. You're gonna align with them. They're gonna feel that you're connected. They see that your interests financially are aligned with theirs. You're going to take them through looking at it like a buyer, and then they're still going to say to you, all right, I hear you, but I still want to do this. That's when you have a hard conversation with them and you say, listen, this is your house. You're a grown up. Okay. You get to do whatever you want with your property. I want your permission to tell you what I really think. You allow me to do that? I don't have to. I could just say, okay, whatever you want, but I want your permission to tell you what I really think. So again, I'm submitting to their authority of owning the home. I'm the professional, but I'm asking for permission to shoot straight with them. Very rarely, I'm sure someone out there at some point in time will get a response that says no, because people are crazy. But normally, people are going to say, sure, I absolutely, go ahead. My concern for you if we overprice the home is in a month, you're going to see that the home is going to sit there. The challenge you're going to have as a homeowner is it's going to be like the clothing item that's been on the clothes rack all season long, and people wonder what's wrong with it. Instantly, its value dissipates. Why hasn't it sold? What's wrong with it? What you're going to find is buyers are going to skip over your home. You're going to find buyers are going to negotiate, and they're going to be really aggressive with regards to concessions and other things, and it's going to make for a really difficult sale. Furthermore, we're going to have a candid discussion on if that happens. I will put all my marketing prowess behind listing your home for $650 if that's absolutely what you want to do. My job is to get people to look at it. My marketing will get eyeballs. My ads, my open houses, the flyers, the signs. I'm going to make sure people see your house. What I can't do is create a buyer out of thin air. So what I'm going to do is I'm marketing with the understanding that we are overpricing your home. As I do that, I need to have a gentleman's handshake with you that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever you guys decide, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever makes sense in your market, to have a price reduction conversation. If I'm going to come to you in 2 weeks and say, hey, we haven't got an offer, here's all the things that I said I was going to do for you, all the ways I was going to market it, I did that. And if I come to you and say it's time to do the price reduction, we have to have alignment here. You can't get me, you can't yell at me. I'm telling you ahead of time that there's a significant chance that this could happen. I'm willing to explore doing something that your neighborhood hasn't done in 5 years or ever, which is to raise your property values. I'm willing to explore that with you, but I need partnership here. I need to know that in 2 weeks, when I tell you the home hasn't sold for this price, that you're going to be willing to do that. And I need to know that you understand you are risking making the home look less desirable as a result of overpricing it. In most industries, overpricing an item does not preclude getting a sale. You can overprice a car and you will get a low offer. You can overprice jewelry, you'll get an offer. With real estate specifically, because it's the largest financial transaction of someone's life, they are driven emotionally. They're driven by fear. They do not approach, the average home buyer does not approach the real estate purchase with the idea of writing low offers. Investors do that, but that's not the buyer in this case. The buyer here is someone that's going to pay full price. And so you need to understand risks, and we need to have a plan if, as we explore this adventure of putting prices that have never happened before on the market, that we have a clear price reduction strategy as a part of the listing agreement. So what you guys just saw me do in response to Lisa's question is start with alignment. I will win if you do this. If I do this, I'm a rock star. But there are significant risks. Let me teach you how a buyer would look at your home compared to the other ones and get super specific. Kitchens, bathrooms, upgrades, views, location, all the things. Let them see it as a buyer. If they still persist in wanting to overprice it, that's when you ask permission. Do I have your permission to be candid? You teach them about what happens when a home is overlooked and the risk involved with doing that. You also teach them about what a price reduction strategy looks like. And I'm very casual, so I used to say to them, you got to promise you're not going to yell at me. And you're not going to give me a bad review. I'm telling you ahead of time, there's a chance that this will happen. And if I'm going to go on an adventure with you and we're going to do something that no one's done in your neighborhood, I got to know you're in my corner. I got to know that you're willing to risk it and you're not going to get mad at me because I'm telling you the science of this business. If you do all that, you kind of position yourself in a win-win. Because if you get it done, which I've done that, by the way, I've gone through this talk track and people have said to me, I still want to do it. And I sold it to a cash buyer. Okay. So it has happened because it would never have appraised. It was 100,000 over. Okay. It never would have appraised. And I was the champion of a very exclusive neighborhood in Virginia Beach. Right. And so it's not that it never happens, it's that it rarely happens. And because you went there with them ahead of time, you had the difficult conversation ahead of time. Because let's be honest, guys, there are agents that will say anything to get the listing. They will say anything. And so there's a moment here where you are risking losing the listing by being candid with them. But by asking permission to do it, talking about alignment, because if you don't talk about the alignment piece and you skip over that, what happens is they're hearing you say to them, I don't think I can get this done. So I want to talk about reducing the price ahead of time. You're like preparing to fail. If you only do that part, you have to do how you'll be a rock star if this happens on the front end. So Lisa, any questions with regards to that? Did that help some? You can just give a thumbs up or whatever. You don't have to. I know you're probably doing 20 different things. Yes, you're very, she says, as always, thank you for making it always seem so simple. Very helpful. It has nothing, I've been doing this a long time and I'm a student of people, I actually, I see the world through other people's eyes, which is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing for all the companies I do consultant work for and for people like you that I can give you the person's perspective. The challenge is I have to work really hard to figure out what I want. Otherwise, I just kind of do what everybody else wants all the time. But all right, so that was a great first question. In some of your markets, you are seeing some homes sitting on the market longer. I can talk a bit about how to reboot some of your listings. Would that be helpful for some? Like if your home sat there for a while, give me a thumbs up if somebody wants me to talk to them about how to get the price reduction and reboot the market. Okay, yeah, lots of thumbs. I thought so. So some markets are struggling, markets aren't. I'm still planning for a big spring, guys. I'm still planning for rates to drop. I'm still planning that as they drop and the market circumstances change some, for an increase of transactions in my business between 20 and 30%. So that has not left. I'm still planning for that. I'm hiring agents. I'm executing on systems. But if you're in an area or you have a listing in a neighborhood that the home is not sold, what's really, really important is that your doesn't think that you've ran out of resources, because that's when you get fired. When they think you've run out of ways to get the home sold, they start looking at hiring other agents. So the first thing that I need you to make sure you start doing effective immediately. I don't care if you haven't done it. I need you to start. If you've had the home listed for a while and you haven't been doing this, don't make it super official. Just every Wednesday or every Tuesday or whatever, pick a day of the week, text them an update. Maybe do a Loom screen recording with the MLS up. Maybe you do Zillow Showcase, what Zillow has done with regards to marketing the property. Or you text them and say, hey, I have an update for you. Do you have 10 minutes? And then every week going forward with your sellers, I want you to start telling them as you're listing the home, I like to do a quick 5-minute update every week. Are you okay if I send it to you via text? Would you like me to call you? Would you like me to send you a video? How would you like me to update you on either the market or what's been going on with the property so that I can be communicating with you? Ask them how they want you to serve them with regards to communication. This solves so many problems, guys. It does it for 2 reasons. One, the client knows that you haven't forgotten about them. That's a huge problem in our industry when the home hasn't sold. Part of it is because we're starting to dodge them a little bit. We're like, dang, I haven't done my job. What am I going to do? How do I get this home sold? The other thing it does is it holds you accountable. And hold on a second. My dad just texted me. I think that you forcing yourself to communicate with them every week, it's going to hold you accountable to stay engaged with the listing as well. And so for you guys, what I want you to do is I want you to do that. And then if the home has been sitting on the market for a while, what I'd like you to start to think about doing is I'd like you to the next price reduction, I like to call it pricing event. And I sit down with them and I call them and I say, all right, the home has been on the market for this many days. We've had X amount of showings. And what I like to do is I like to try to give a snapshot of the neighborhood or the area and say, your home's listed for 500,000. There were 3 homes in a half a mile or a mile radius that sold for $500,000. Now, that could be condos, detached, like apartment style, townhome style. It can be different. And I know that appraisers don't work that way. I know it's not a good comp. What I'm doing is I'm kind of like an economic view. I'm saying, here's where your region or your area, here are the sales that have happened, right? If you have the time, you call those listing agents that had the $500,000 buyers. You say, how long were they looking? Were they in other areas? Anything you can tell me about them? Because you want to know, did they go look at your listing first, right? Who's the agent? Oh, is Mary Smith that represents the buyer? Mary Smith showed my listing last week. See, that's really interesting information for a homeowner because your seller is saying you sold my home. And then you get to go back to your seller and say, well, the agent that showed your listing on Wednesday, that showing that you had to get the dogs for, well, 2 days later, they went and looked at this other one for 500,000 and they bought it. And in looking at the pictures, their kitchen is much nicer than yours. And that's why they bought yours. Or they didn't buy yours and they bought the other one, right? I'm giving you kind of a random example. This stuff is super interesting to homeowners because they're looking to you as the information source of why their listing hasn't sold, right? When it's time to try to generate interest, I want you to think about doing things like updating the photos. Now, when I say updating the photos, if your market allows it, do things. I like Box Brownie. It's a like team of assistants that will edit photos for you. If they have an empty room in the house, have it virtually staged. Have them put, Box Brownie can actually put furniture in the photos. You might be able to use ChatGPT for that. I don't know. I haven't tried, but or in some markets they do those sunset pics. I'm not necessarily a fan of them, but you can do that. But what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to reduce the price. I'm going to update the photos. I'm going to send an email blast out to all the agents that showed the home. I'm going to email the leads that are in the database. So if you have a database of buyer leads in your system, email them out the property that you just reduced the price and hold an open house, right? Hold an open house. And when you hold the open house, if you channel your salesperson energy at the open house, like so many times when you reduce the price and you do all this stuff in your mind, you're like, I'm just here for my seller. I'm just going to, hi, how are you? Did you have any questions? No. And then we call our seller and we say, hey, we had 5 visitors. Nobody was interested, but I'm sure we'll find a buyer eventually, right? Well, I want you to be a little bit selfish in that moment, but don't trail on the purpose here. When you have one of those visitors at your open house that you're holding on the house that you just reduced the price, you're trying to let your seller know that you're doing your job. When one of those people come in and they're like, yeah, I love the neighborhood, I'm just not sure when I'm going to move. I want you ahead of time. If there's a listing nearby that's a competitor of your listing that you just reduced the price with, you're already in the neighborhood. You're doing the open house from 12 to 2. Schedule a private tour of the other listing that you're competing with from 2 to 3 so that you can do a private walkthrough. While people are coming in, you get to say to the open house visitors, hey, what'd you think? Do you have any questions? No, we're just kind of looking around. Hey, there's another one a block over. I'm actually going to go preview it from 2 to 3. If you want to meet me, we can go together. That's great, Barry. I'd love to go see the other one. Perfect. I'll meet you at 123 Smith Street at 2:00 as soon as I'm done with the open house here. You go show that house because you already scheduled that private walkthrough for the open house. That does 2 things, guys. One, you just got a new buyer because now you're looking at a second home in the neighborhood. You're building rapport. You're doing all the things that like a scrappy buyer's agent would do that's just trying to pay their rent, right? That's what you're doing. But then what you're also doing is a case study for your seller. You call your seller after it's done and say, hey, I met with Mary and William. They stopped by the open house. I offered to go look at a second one because I wanted to do some market research for you on people that are looking in the neighborhood. I have 3 things that they liked about the other listing more than yours. Talk about win, 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 win. You are winning. You are winning, adding tangible value to a homeowner. And they know that in it. They right. And I'll tell you as well, if you don't have access to Zillow Showcase, I don't make any money for saying this, but it's a great way to market your property. It just has some sizzle to it because you're prioritizing that person's listing over all the other listings on Zillow. And so it's actually a really compelling product marketing. Facebook ads. So my team does Facebook ads and Zillow Showcase. We do both, and we pull data from the results of those ads and we give it to the client. And then what we do is we weaponize that data. Make no mistake about it. We go to them and we're like, hey, 5,000 people saw the ad. They watched it for at least, I did a video ad. They watched it for at least 5 seconds. Of the 5,000 that watched it, 500 of them clicked for more information. Of the 500 that clicked for more information, 20 of them registered. Of the 20 that registered, 5 of them gave me their phone number and I called them. Of the 5 that called them, all of them told me that they initially liked the way the home looked, but they weren't interested because of the price. Out of that results and that ad, I believe we are overpriced. Because if 5,000 people said thanks, but no thanks, right? So what you guys are seeing me do is teach you how to align with the homeowner and stop using statements like, I've been doing this a long time and I feel like this is the way to go. Do not do that. They do not know you. Why would they trust you with the largest asset that they've ever owned based on your word? I don't do that. I want to see the data. Why do you feel the way you do? I don't want your gut. I don't want your instincts. I want data. Real estate is a data-based industry. And so as you guys are dealing with aged listings, fight the compulsion to hide. That's what my agents do. When the home doesn't sell, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Da, da, da. Get creative. Go to GPT and say, hey, I've got a listing that's been on the market 30 days. What are the best real estate agents in this city? What are they doing to get their home sold when it hasn't? Come up with some new ideas. I saw one of my agents, she held a black tie. It was a nicer home. It wasn't luxury, but it was a nicer home, a black tie open house for a broker open. So she had 30 agents. She had a DJ and an open bar with 2 free drink tickets. She got 40 real estate agents at that place and they had fun for 3 hours. Not too much fun, but they had fun. She made it cool. She made it fun, right? And so when you're doing that kind of stuff, your clients will believe you when they say it's time to reduce the price. But if you're an agent that's just putting it in the MLS and hoping for the best, well, you need to level up, because if it takes a while in your market to sell homes, you've got a decision to make. You can either be a victim to those circumstances, like you can be like, all right, that sucks, yep, or you can be a victor to those circumstances. We all have hard stuff. It's just some of us decide to overcome it, and decide to be defeated by it. And so for you guys, I want you to be empowered that you are in control of your business, the level and the margin of success that you are currently enjoying. If you want more, you can have it, but it will not be handed to you. You will have to be in a pretty persistently uncomfortable space in your life and business for any measure of growth. I do not know a way to grow without being uncomfortable. And so, yeah, it's hard. It's scary. You're not sure if you're wasting your money. But at the end of the day, that's the difference between the haves and the have-nots. It's the people that take on that risk and they adapt. Okay. If you guys found this helpful, give me a thumbs up either on camera or on the chat. Know that we're on track. Good. I'm so glad to see so many people getting benefit from this session. I'm going to see you guys again Friday at 1 p.m. Friday. So we're doing 2 this week. I would love if some of you on Friday could take a second. I'll remind you on Friday, but to put in the chat here's a risk I took. Here's something I'm trying, right? Here's a way I don't care. I don't care if it was successful or not. I want to see you trying, because eventually you're going to start hitting it out of the park. But a lot of us just stop trying. So I need you to dig in, do the work, and proud of you. Have a great rest of your day, guys.